friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie Yo 664. In that neighborhood, my brothers and sisters. We are at the start of another weekend, my friends. And to start this weekend off, we are going back to Kyle from Dire Trip. Back to Dire Trip, Bean Team. And the title of this video is Crazy. The astrologer influencer turned gay bashing baby killer, Danielle Johnson. Now I'm just trying to figure out, what does Kyle mean by turned gay bashing baby killer? Like, did this person become homophobic, you know what I'm saying, and then decided to start killing babies? I don't freaking know, Big Team. This one here is just gonna be crazy as you know what, and we can tell just from the title. But we're about to see. But before we see, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you might need. Get what you need, please. We are back to Kyle from Dire Trip. Y'all got what y'all need, y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
After a self-proclaimed astrology expert on Twitter garnered a huge following and became very wealthy from selling dubious spiritual healing packages online, her posts began to get more and more strange. Eventually, she began to seem full-on insane, leading up to her committing an act that truly was.
Get whatever you may need.
Back in the early 2010s, astrology really exploded in popularity among young adults, mainly the female millennial demographic online. Platforms like Twitter and Instagram exploded in horoscopes, predictions of the future, and all sorts of other good stuff that comes with that. Over time, a lot of these influencers began to rack up hundreds of thousands or even millions of followers by applying the fake it till you make it strategy, just kind of claiming that they were an expert. But in doing so, a lot of them really did make bank. However, when it comes to people building their whole career on acting like they know what they're talking about in order to scam the unassuming public, it's no surprise that not all of them were good people. The subject.
And you know what this is, y'all? This is history repeating itself. Because back in the 90s, I can remember when I was a little child, and I know some of y'all know what I'm talking about if you're old enough. You remember the old psychic commercials that used to come on late at night, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. They had the they was called infomercials, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Where you can call in and the psychic would predict your future, but it was all a scam. Have y'all ever heard of Miss Cleo? You know what I'm saying, man? And this basically was history repeating itself just later on in the years, where now you got influencers on social media being psychic. So whatever they being, whatever they saying they are, they really lying and just taking your money, just like back then in the 90s. Let's go.
The subject of today's video was a woman named Danielle Johnson. Danielle's mother, Sharonda, got pregnant with her when she was only 16 years old. From that point onward, she had a very difficult childhood, and even her mother admitted that it was a constant struggle. Danielle was always a kid with a lot of fear and paranoia. For example, whenever she got a simple headache, she would assume it was a brain aneurysm and start to panic. After Sharonda got addicted to drugs when Danielle was 13, she sent the girl off to live with her uncle and aunt. She had hoped that living a stable life with her more well-established Navy veteran brother and his wife would be a better upbringing for her. If anything, though, it mostly backfired. It mainly just gave Danielle a bunch of abandonment issues, feeling that her mother would rather have drugs than her. Eventually, Danielle would graduate from high school in 2007 and move on to studying at Norfolk State University. There, her roommate Maya would come to see that she was a bit strange. She would constantly talk about her dreams and what they meant, or visions that she had of the future. At the time, the two were fairly devout Christians, so Maya just chalked it up to Danielle trying to be more religious. However, Danielle wasn't too interested in Christianity after all. It wasn't the kind of experience she was looking for. Danielle dropped out of college during her junior year, moving back in with her aunt and uncle. She moved away from academia and began to study things more on the spiritual side. Her first big obsession was Reiki, which is a mystical healing energy technique. Danielle still wanted to be spiritual, but she wanted to break free of Christianity and focus more on herself as the focal point of her beliefs. In 2012, when Danielle was 23, she met Cecil Rice, her husband-to-be, on Twitter. After some back-and-forth DMs for a while, they decided to finally meet up. Cecil had no interest in Reiki or anything like that, but he found Danielle's posts to be funny. He admired that, despite her rough upbringing, she didn't seem to let it weigh on her, finding her to be a happy, positive, and hopeful sort of person. The two got married in 2014, moving out to Springfield, Ohio together. They had a daughter together in 2015. That's when Danielle looked to social media to use her hobbies to make a bit of money. Danielle was pretty early to the trend of making a living being a spiritualist on social media. She was seen as a bit more casual and relatable than many of the other bigger accounts out there, making her feel more approachable. Going by @MysticXLipstick, she racked up quite a bit of followers. However, it's here where she started to inflate her level of expertise and take on a new persona in order to seem a bit more legit. She started going by Danielle Aoka instead of Johnson, using a Nigerian surname instead. Given how a good number of the more popular users in this sphere were women of color, it's speculated that she felt this name change would give her a little more street cred. On her website, she wrote, Danielle Aoka is a certified Reiki master teacher who is also trained in over 10 different alternative healing modalities. At a young age, Danielle had a near-death experience at 3 years old, which served as her rite of passage into shamanism. Coming from a rich lineage of indigenous shaman and medicine women, Danielle's spiritual gifts began to blossom.
Okay, now all that's fine and dandy, y'all. I'm not even saying whether that's true or not. I don't believe all that is true about her being some type of special healer and all that jibber jabber. She's just trying to steal people money in my eyes. You know what I'm saying? But regardless of that, I'm sitting back wondering what a baby killer come in at. Like because what she doing right now is not harming anyone physically. Now financially, yeah, it is, but it's not harming anybody physically, especially a baby. How do she go from this scamming people to freaking killing a baby? That's what's on my mind. But let's see.
Nobody has really been able to find out what she was referring to, if anything, when she claimed that she had a near-death experience at 3 years old. It's also completely unknown as to where the line about coming from a long line of shamans and medicine women comes from either. None of it was ever really confirmed in any way. It seems like she just kind of said it. On her website, she offered anything from rituals to guidance to remote healing. These Aura Cleanse packages range from anywhere from about $3 to $150 per month. She mentioned that, if you paid, she would perform a long-distance healing ritual on you and heal you, even listing these ritual healings as one-time use. She even claimed that these processes were automatic once paid, saying it automatically links to your aura once purchased. It's very likely that she simply just let the money flow in and acted like she did something. Danielle opened up a page on Etsy as well, using the name Rich Girl Magic, flaunting the wealth she had accumulated from these endeavors. She offered healing cleanses here as well, along with guided meditation. Danielle began to move from Reiki and spiritual healing into astrology. Another big astrology buff on Twitter who spoke to her said that this was a calculated move. She noted that Danielle didn't really know anything about astrology, she just kind of liked the vibe. Within a number of weeks, Danielle went from asking questions about astrology to being a self-proclaimed expert. Given that there isn't really a specific requirement to be an expert on the subject, all she really had to do was walk the walk and make it look like she knew what she was doing. Luckily for her, she had gotten pretty good at that. She quickly began making more and more money, buying expensive fashion and high-end cars. Her friends from before all of this began barely even recognized her anymore. Danielle gained well over 100,000 followers on her Twitter alone, where she seems to have posted the most. While she would often make posts about her own products, horoscopes, predictions, and other things along those lines, that was definitely not all of it. Some of Danielle's posts were labeled as being homophobic, and her following attempted to cancel her, something that is admittedly very common on Twitter. She apologized, saying that she herself was bisexual and that anything she might have said was probably due to her feeling shame over it. However, this wouldn't be the only times that her problem with the gay community would be brought up. In 2018, she even began taking advantage of abuse victims on her platform as well, offering a specific healing ritual for victims of sexual assault.
Wow.
She said that if you paid her, she would provide one of those long-distance automatic rituals to heal you of any of your pain related to that past experience. When she was criticized about making these bold claims with nothing to back it up, she said that she was allowed to do it because she was a victim of sexual abuse when she was a child herself. However, her family says that they never heard anything about her experiencing this abuse as a child before. It very well might have just been yet another thing she said to seem more credible.
Yeah, just another goddamn lie, man. This lady here would lie to go to the most extreme lies for people to buy her product. Just long story short, story long. She'll tell you any damn thing. All she wants is your damn money. And it's so effed up. It's like, dude, why? Like, it's like, I don't understand how people find stuff like this credible. Like, why do people believe this ish? Why is it people in this world that is throwing money at this lady with this craziness that she's saying, man? It's freaking baffling. I just thank God I'm smart enough, you know what I'm saying, man, to understand that that shit is a big ass scam. Long story short, short story long.
After not having been present in Danielle's life for years, her mother Sharonda made her way back into her life in 2015. The two got to talking and came to reconnect, with Sharonda meeting her grandchild for the first time. Danielle convinced her mother to go down a similar spiritual journey, convincing Sharonda that she was a psychic and that she would be her guide. As Danielle's popularity grew, she began to grow more obsessed with critique from others online, especially other astrologists. Danielle started to dabble in witchcraft and attempted to put curses on these other users. She bought all manner of items like cow tongues and feathers to do the job and plant her hexes. She began to drive nails into their photos and mumble, saying that she was communicating with demons. Danielle and her husband separated in 2018, but they never actually divorced. Her husband did say that he didn't really see any of her darker rituals in his presence, noting that he mainly wanted to split up just because they had grown apart in general. Given that she was very wealthy by this point, Danielle took her daughter to New York City and began taking care of her full time. By the year 2020, Danielle wasn't really sure where her life was going. She eventually got into a new relationship and got engaged despite still being married, but it didn't work out in the end. She gradually started getting more political, all the while getting into conspiracy theories. Theories about COVID were a personal favorite of hers, and her views on the subject were anything but consistent. She would basically believe any conspiracy on the topic, even conspiracies that outright contradicted each other. She tended to share anti-Semitic content fairly often as well. With all of this, the criticism, the conspiracy theories, and the change in her vibe in general, a lot of her followers really began to distance themselves from her. Some of her previous customers said that she now felt like she had a darker energy about her that wasn't near as pleasant. They said that overall, she didn't seem well. Danielle decided, like many other influencers, that she would now dabble in music. While she was a fairly talented vocalist, it wasn't too long before she realized that having a lot of followers in her current sphere wouldn't automatically translate to having a huge following with her music. She promoted her new musician persona and her new tracks very aggressively, even releasing a few music videos, but it just never panned out.
Stupid bitch, you wanna play games? I got prizes, bitch. Karma is my bitch and I'm that bitch. So check that, bitch.
After her first big release, she didn't get anywhere near the following she was hoping for. She only ended up with about 150 subscribers on YouTube after releasing her music videos, and that's even after appearing in a few articles praising her.
I mean, how could people freaking subscribe to her after that little trash intro or hook or whatever that was when she said the B word like 5 times in the same sentence? Like, what the was that? But no, man, for real, on a more serious note, one thing that I have understood as I keep on in my YouTube journey, if you are dedicating yourself to one thing, you can't move on to the next thing. You know what I'm saying? And and expect that same crowd that you had with that first thing to move along with you to that next thing. Like some of them will come, but not everybody is gonna come. And if you're gonna move on to the next thing, you better be very versed and very good at that next thing to attract even more people from your first crowd over to the next thing. Now I know a lot of y'all don't understand what I'm saying, but I know a lot of y'all understand too, man. And there are exceptions on YouTube. I'll just try to give an example real quick. Let's just throw a name out there. I know probably none of y'all gonna know who I'm talking about, but let me just say Agent Zero or Cash Nasty. These dudes, long story short, story long, started their YouTube careers being NBA 2K live streamers. You know what I'm saying? That's all they used to do. That's how they started. And now they just above and beyond doing whatever they want to do, and people still love them for that. A lot of people that follow them now don't even remember 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago when they was doing the whole 2K thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're a completely different person, but that take time, and it also take you having the ability to be able to influence people to like you regardless of what you're doing. I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. But her whole music career, nah, it wasn't gonna work out. Let's go.
After that, she gave up on music. She went back to astrology and spiritual healing, trying to engage with her previous followers once again. By late 2020, Danielle was getting closer with a man she would DM online once again. This man was named Jalen Chaney. He was a diehard Star Wars nerd who was interested in anything eccentric. While he wasn't quite as deep into these things as someone like Danielle, he had a passing interest in spirituality, aliens, and expanded consciousness, among other things. He developed a pretty average level of interest in horoscopes, which seems to have led him to Danielle. While he was in the Air Force, stationed in Italy, the two of them talked online fairly often. Danielle convinced Jalen to get more into spirituality as well, much like she did with her mother. Eventually, he was calling himself a Reiki master in his Twitter bio as well. Danielle was falling for him hard, but there was a problem though. Jalen only dated dudes. He had only been with men for his whole life. So Danielle, really wanting to get with him, began to start manipulating him. She told him that her spiritual instincts were telling her that he was only gay due to trauma from his childhood, that he was really straight, and that he should be with her instead.
Wow.
After enough of this manipulation, he gradually came to believe that she might be right. The two began a long-distance relationship. She eventually flew out to Italy to see him, and the two would meet up in Florida whenever he was on leave. He became so infatuated with her that he decided not to re-enlist and settle down and live with her instead. Danielle continued to scold Jalen whenever he would appear to be gay in any way or bring up anything about his past. She would yell at him whenever he, in her words, sounded gay. If he would say something she didn't like, she would get angry and scream, "Oh, that was gay of you. Why did you say that?" Danielle began to isolate Jalen from his family as well. She accused his mom of performing black magic rituals against their relationship. While she didn't outright forbid him from talking to his mom, she did her best to manipulate him into hating her, and she would get incredibly angry if he ever did want to contact her. Jalen's mother has since said that she wasn't even particularly sure why Danielle wanted to turn Jalen against her so badly. Danielle would very often start arguments in the home. Eventually, this would end up with her throwing things and breaking items all over the house. At one point, she broke a glass and threatened to swallow all of the shards just to get back at Jalen. Danielle's own mother was the one to call 911 on her in this case. Danielle continued to say that she was speaking with demons. She told people that she had stationed demons all around her home, at the front door, on the roof, at the gate, everywhere. She started seeing herself as some sort of queen of the underworld. After dealing with this for a while, Danielle's mom told Jalen that he needed to get out of this relationship. Hearing about this, Danielle kicked her mother out of her life for good. Not too long after, Danielle was pregnant once again. She and Jalen welcomed a new daughter named Soleil. Danielle's mom didn't even know that she had gotten pregnant, let alone had a child. Danielle and Jalen moved into a high-end apartment in Woodland Hills in LA. Many neighbors said that Danielle seemed very angry and standoffish most of the time, not really speaking to any of them even when greeted. She could be heard yelling at Jalen all throughout the night, usually into the early morning hours. Eventually, Danielle came to force Jalen to lock down all of his social media. She did so by telling him that her enemies were attempting to curse him through his accounts. She made an effort to cut off anyone and everyone who could see how their relationship was going. She especially made sure that her followers knew as little as possible about how she truly was behind her kind, loving, spiritualist persona.
And see, that's another thing too, y'all. She not only crazy on the outside, but she crazy on the inside too. You know what I'm saying? Like the outside world, the social media world. She crazy with that ish, but at the same time, she got some crazy ish going on at home. Seriously, just the way she treating Jalen, like this is crazy work. To tell somebody, no, you not gay, you not a lesbian, you not homosexual, you heterosexual, or even just look at it the other way. No, you not straight. No, you not heterosexual. You a homo. Like any way to try to even just convince somebody to the point where she pretty much had a baby with this man and everything. It's like she doing crazy controlling ish on the outside and the inside, man. Like just lying to people on the outside and the inside, man. You get what I'm saying? Think about all those influencers, y'all, with all these different scams and saying she can do this and that and that and that. And in her brain, the more we get in the store, the more I start to realize that a lot of this stuff I think she really believe.
As much as she tried to hide her deteriorating mental state, her tweets only got more and more outlandish over time. She began promoting Q conspiracies, reposting more anti-Semitic content, and really upping the ante on her own personal conspiracies. Her posts were getting so wild that people weren't actually sure if she was really losing her mind or if she just had a twisted, dark sense of humor. On her Twitter, she posted about an upcoming spiritual war, one that she called an energy war, without getting too much into specifics. More strangely, she blamed the deaths of a few thousand penguins in Antarctica, as well as chickens in America, on black magic users. She blamed black women sexualizing themselves on white supremacy, saying it was killing humanity. She even blamed an earthquake in New York City on white supremacy, saying that they were trying to kill everyone else. Once again obsessing over her perceived haters, she said that anyone on the spiritual side of Twitter who wasn't in line with her beliefs was a fake and a liar, and that anyone who agreed with those people was on the wrong side. She began to grow obsessed with the oncoming solar eclipse as well, tweeting about it over and over again, then retweeting those same tweets numerous times as well. She wrote, "This eclipse is the epitome of spiritual warfare. Get your protection on and your heart in the right place." Before later writing, wake up, the apocalypse is here. Everyone who has ears, listen."
Or maybe it's just a regular freaking eclipse. Another thing, y'all, it's like, seriously, man, we can just see from the start to where we at in this video how she just spiraling more and more down the just insane road. You know what I'm saying? Just out of her mind road. Like her mind is literally deteriorating. Like Kyle said, man, it's crazy. It remind me of the video we watched yesterday from Chillin' Scares. If you ain't watched it yet, make sure you check that out, Bean Team. With the first dude, I think his name was John Yu. You know what I'm saying? John Yu was the same way with all these conspiracies and talking about demons and the government and they out to get me and they trying to kill everybody and all this craziness. And she the same damn way.
It became more and more apparent to even the most casual viewer that Danielle was indeed losing her mind. Even then, they had no idea how bad it really had gotten. April 8th, 2024. Just after midnight in the early morning hours of the day of the solar eclipse. Danielle's neighbors heard both she and Jalen arguing, notably much more loudly than usual. It continued all the way up until 3 a.m. At 3:40 a.m., the argument would come to cross the line, being one that there would be no coming back from. For hours, Danielle had been throwing a tantrum. She had broken all manner of household objects, even furniture all over the home. She began to beat Jalen all over his body, including his arm, hands, face, and back. Then, in the living room, in front of Danielle's 9-year-old daughter, Danielle pulled out a knife and stabbed Jalen in the chest. He fled to the bedroom of the home, falling to his stomach on the ground and bleeding out.
Damn.
Danielle, rather than try to get him some help or cover up her own tracks, instead decided to perform a ritual. She placed what was later called a voodoo-looking religious object next to his head among many other items placed around his body. Danielle then chucked the bloody knife onto the couch. She then threw her 2 daughters, aged 9 and only 8 months, into her SUV before speeding out of the parking lot. She rammed the apartment's garage gate in her frantic panic while blasting out onto the road. By 4:30 a.m., Danielle was speeding down the 405 freeway in the Westchester area before she decided that she wanted to ditch her kids. She slowed down, although she kept the car moving, and reached over to open the passenger door. She screamed at her daughter to take the baby and get out of the car. When her daughter, understandably terrified, refused to do so, she shoved the both of them out of the door. At the time, the 9-year-old was holding the 8-month-old. The 2 of them rolled out into the street and into the middle of the freeway. In the commotion, the 9-year-old dropped the 8-month-old. Tragically, the infant was then struck by an oncoming vehicle moving at full freeway speed. Her injuries were immediately fatal. Plenty of—
Man, time out real quick, man. Team, real quick, man, for real, man. This is some of the most craziest ish I ever heard, and we on Reaction Beanie Yo 664. Seriously, y'all, what in the hell, man? She told her 8-year-old to get out with your little 8-month-year-old while she's still driving down the freeway, and when the little girl refused to do it, she just pushed them out the car. I ain't never in my life heard no shit like that. You like, it never ceases to amaze me. The crimes, the cruelty, the horrible things that humans can do in this thing that we call life. Them her kids at the same time. Let's go.
people stopped on the highway and gathered up the 2 kids, calling 911 in the process. While the 8-month-old Soleil was pronounced dead at the scene, the 9-year-old was rushed off to the hospital. Danielle was still driving. By 5 a.m., she had gone south towards Redondo Beach, hitting speeds of well over 100 miles per hour. It was then that one of her tires nicked a curb on a residential street, causing the vehicle to go spiraling out of control and slam straight into a tree. The impact was so intense that the tree fell over on top of the car. Danielle died then and there. It was a full 2.5 hours later that Danielle's neighbors discovered a horrific scene in her home. They had noticed that the door was wide open and that there was a trail of what looked like blood leading from the elevator back to the room. They called the police, telling them what they had seen. They were urged to go check and see if anyone was hurt inside the room. There they found Jalen, face down in a pool of blood in an absolutely ransacked home. The only witness to the entire ordeal was the only member of the small family who survived, the 9-year-old girl. She was able to tell the police that there was an argument, that her mother got violent, and that it ended up like this. Originally, the police felt that Danielle had intentionally run her car into the tree in order to end it all. However, investigators and the coroner determined that it was accidental. Danielle had fully intended to escape to freedom. However, she ended up dying from blunt force injuries to the head when she hit the tree. In fact, she had been completely ejected from the vehicle due to the severity of the crash.
Damn.
It was surprisingly only a matter of hours between when the news hit the media and when Danielle's followers made the connection that it was about her. It really goes without saying that her Twitter following flew into an uproar of shock and disbelief. They began to come to their own conclusions on things, saying that she was likely suffering from spiritual psychosis. This is basically when someone hypes themselves up on their spiritual beliefs to the point where they begin to hallucinate and experience delusions of grandeur. Others felt that she was possessed by demons or something along those lines. It quickly became heavily speculated in the media, mainly because of Danielle's final tweets, that she had done all of this because of the solar eclipse, given that she had been freaking out about it in the days leading up to it, and that the killings happened on the morning before it was to happen. They continued to spread this as fact, as did many content creators at the time. The police said that they weren't sure if that was the reasoning for the attacks at all, though. Based on interviews with Danielle and Jalen's families, it came to be more clear that this was simply the culmination of years of deteriorating mental health, marital abuse, and increasingly violent behavior. Many of them came to regret not asking more questions as Danielle's social media posts continued to get more and more insane. Danielle's mother, Sharonda, continues to be contacted by her followers regularly. One of them told her that she had contacted Danielle from beyond the grave and that she explained why she did what she did along with a generic apology. Sharonda feels frustrated mainly because, in her words, they're mourning someone who never existed. They're mourning a fake online persona invented by a clearly mentally ill, average woman. None of them actually knew who she really was. It was all manufactured. To this day, some of Danielle's fans continue to support her and make excuses for her behavior. Many of them continue to blame demons and the like, failing to blame Danielle for murdering her husband and daughter herself.
And see, what all that tell you right there is that it's people out there that think just like Danielle thought. You know what I'm saying? The people out there that still supporting her after knowing all that is she did. Oh, it was the demons. The demons got her. The same demons she was trying to tell us about. They saying that it's because they think the same is. They think just like her. And all I'm saying is, Bean Team, it ain't just one Danielle out here. It's a lot of them. And one of them may be in your neighborhood, but most definitely and more probably in your city at the very least. Let's go.
Maybe that's just easier to believe than admitting that they were fooled by a fake internet personality all along and that Danielle was not the nice person she portrayed herself to be. Once again, thank you for watching my video. If you found it interesting, please give it a like. It really helps me out in the algorithm, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this.
Yeah, man. Seriously, y'all. That's how I feel, man. I feel like that just lets you know, that's just an indication that there's a lot of people that thinking that same freaking way out here with the same ideologies and the demons and the angels and the what the freak ever. And it's like it got more apparent as we went more into this story that number one, her brain was deteriorating. Like her mind, her mindset, her mind frame, everything was just getting worse and worse. You know what I'm saying? Like seriously, throughout the years, you can just see it. And then when you get to the point where it's like she becoming a danger to just humans in general. It go back to what I be saying with a lot of these videos, man. And I do feel this way too. Like somebody should have tried to not, I ain't gonna say put an end to her before it got out of hand, but tried to step in and intervene and get her some help, because I'm sure that her family and friends, I'm talking about her close family and friends, not even just the her followers on Twitter or whatever, not talking about none of those people. I'm talking about the people in her circle or around her from day to day. I feel like they should have seen that something wrong with Danielle. You know what I'm saying, man? We got to try to find out some type of way to get her some help or something. I don't know, y'all. And then it's also crazy too, though, that the first real crime she committed was her killing her and rest in peace to her 8-month little girl. And I'm glad her 9-year-old didn't die, but that was her real first crime that she committed, where the police would actually be able to see that she was crazy. Like the police never was onto her scent. You know what I'm saying? They never knew what could potentially happen with the road that she was going down. Like I said earlier, man, it's like she was just going down a road of pure insanity, like just getting worse and worse, man. Such a freaking crazy story. This one had a lot more layers, y'all, than I expected it to have. And the title pretty much summed it up, but the title got so much going on, but when you actually hear the story, everything that Kyle got in the title is like, yeah, that pretty much sums Danielle Johnson up, man. Freaking crazy, Bean Team. Freaking crazy. But I digress. I'm gonna go and let y'all go now, man. I appreciate y'all coming on back as always. And before you leave, just please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And remember this: love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.